He was 11 years old, barefoot in a Texas field, when the Apache came. By the time anyone found him again, 9 years had passed. He had a new name, a new language, and a new people, and when they told him it was time to come home, he looked at them like they were strangers. Because to him, they were. This is the true story about the boy who forgot he was white. But was he really white? Before Herman Lehmann, there was Ernst. Ernst Moritz Lehmann arrived in America from Germany sometime in the mid-1800s, carrying the usual immigrant cargo of hope and not much else. He settled in Texas, in the hill country west of Austin, where German immigrant communities had quietly taken root among the limestone ridges and cedar breaks. But Ernst did something that set him apart from nearly every other white man in his community. He fell in love with Augusta Johanna Adams, a woman born into slavery. Their union was not just socially dangerous. In 1850s Texas, it was the kind of thing that could get a man killed. But Ernst and Augusta built a life together anyway, quietly and stubbornly, raising children in a state that would not have recognized their family as legitimate under any law it cared to enforce. Their son Herman, born in 1859, appeared fully white to anyone who looked at him. Light skin, light eyes. The world would treat him as white. But Herman Lehmann carried African-American blood in his veins, a fact that history largely forgot, and that adds a layer to his story that almost nobody tells. On May 16, 1870, Herman was 11 years old. He and his brother Willie were working in a field near Loyal Valley, Mason County, when a group of Apache raiders swept through. Willie escaped. Herman did not. What the Apache did with captives depended entirely on the captive. Some were killed. Some were traded. Some, particularly children young enough to be reshaped, were absorbed. Herman was young enough. They kept him. The early months were brutal. He was beaten regularly, forced to prove himself, subjected to tests of endurance that were designed to break him or make him. He was given the name Montecana. He learned Apache by total immersion, the way children learn any language, by drowning in it until it becomes instinct. Within a year, he had stopped dreaming in English. He learned to ride without a saddle at full gallop. He learned to track game across hard ground, to read weather in the movement of animals, to navigate by stars he'd been given new names for. He was taught to use a bow with the kind of precision that took most Apache boys years to develop. He was, by every measure that mattered to the people around him, becoming Apache. Then something happened that changed the course of his life again. Around 1874, Herman killed an Apache medicine man named Carnavist, in what accounts suggest was a moment of rage following a punishment he felt was unjust. Killing a medicine man was not something you survived easily among the Apache. Herman fled alone into the Texas wilderness, a teenager, by himself, hunted. He lived alone for months. Exactly how long is disputed, but the accounts he gave later in life describe a period of genuine, solitary survival, hunting, sheltering, moving, constantly. It is one of the most overlooked chapters of his story. A boy, not yet fully grown, keeping himself alive in territory that killed experienced men. Eventually he encountered a band of Comanche. They took him in, and it was among the Comanche that Herman Lehmann truly became someone else entirely. He was adopted by the chief Quanah, given full status as a warrior, and rode with the Comanche across Texas, New Mexico, and into Mexico on raids that were part warfare, part survival, and part the last gasp of a way of life the United States government was systematically destroying. Herman participated in raids on white settlements. He fought against the U.S. Army. He was, by his own later account, fully Comanche in his mind, his loyalties, and his identity. The German-American boy from Mason County was gone. In 1878, the U.S. Army tracked him down. He was 20 years old. The reunion with his mother, Philip, and Augusta Lehmann's family was not what anyone had imagined. Herman could barely speak English. He didn't recognize his siblings at first. He was deeply uncomfortable in a house, refused to sleep in a bed, and spent the first week sitting outside at night staring at the sky. He had no framework for the life being handed back to him because he had never considered it lost. The government sent him to meet with Quanah Parker, the legendary half-white Comanche chief, whose own mother, Cynthia Ann Parker, had been a white captive raised Comanche before being forcibly returned to white society. The two men, both caught between worlds, understood each other in ways no one else in either of their lives quite could. Quanah formally released Herman from his Comanche ties, a gesture that was more ceremonial than legal, but carried enormous emotional weight for Herman. He eventually settled back in Texas, married, had children, and lived until 1932. He dictated his memoirs, a remarkable document. He attended Comanche reunions for the rest of his life, riding in full warrior dress, and was reportedly happiest there, among people who had once been his people, in a life that the United States had taken from the Comanche forever. He never fully came back. Herman Lehmann's story sits at the collision point of almost every defining tension in American history: race, identity, conquest, and belonging. A boy who was part black, raised German, made Apache, then Comanche, then forced back into white society. His life is a mirror, held up to the myth of a simple American identity. It was never simple, it was never just one thing. The people history tries to simplify are often the ones with the most complicated stories. She had every reason to stay silent. But she didn't. And the state of Missouri put her on trial for it. Next time, the story of Celia, the slave who defied her master.